Welcome back to the Hot Mess to Awesomeness podcast, a show all about inspiring smart, busy women to put their happiness at the top of their to-do list. Join your host and life coach, Dion Thompson, as she chats with amazing women who have figured out how to make their happiness a priority, and more importantly, what it's really like to go from hot mess to awesomeness. And now, on with the show.
Welcome, everybody, to the Hot Mess from Hot Mess to Awesomeness podcast. This is the break that every busy woman deserves, and I say this every time, and you're going to get used to this. I'm super sweaty, and I love it. I'm going to be sharing that song out into the world and be like, everybody needs to bust their booty to that. I was very excited about that. So thank you, Samantha, for that. You know what I noticed? So this is super high tech here. I got to go grab no, I'm not. I'm going to roll with it. This is what I'm doing. I'm rolling.
We're just going to roll.
We're just going to roll. There's a lot going on in the world for the past 4 months, and especially right now. And I'm really grateful to have an opportunity to connect with my friend Samantha King. And we spent a little bit of time before we hit record to walk through some feelings and walk through some thoughts. And so I'm grateful, very grateful for that. And I'm really excited for this conversation and to connect to embracing the hot mess moments, because whether it's our personal or within our small bubble of an environment or out on a global stage, there's a lot that we can do so that we can move through what we're going through with honor and integrity and feeling aligned, even when stuff gets fucking hard. And so I'm really excited to have you here today to chat about your journey, what brought you to this place, and how you're moving through life moment by moment, as we all are. And I'm a little extra excited because I love connecting with you, and I love the chats that we have because they're always so brain to brain, which is kind of my jam. Jason Silva, he did a chat. He does all kinds of chats that I love him in weird ways. He did a talk about brain coupling, and it was this activity. It's like the energetic activity that occurs between two individuals when they're literally on the same vibrational plane, and their brains are like physically attached while they're conversing. And I feel that with you, and so I'm a little extra excited that.
And I love our conversations because I bring in the TV pop culture part of it, and then you're like, yes, and that's because, and here's the science, and I'm like, cool.
Yes.
30 Rock didn't teach me that, but yes, and that's the show I'm watching right now, obviously.
And I love that. It's funny. Someone asked me yesterday, have you seen this thing on Netflix? I'm like, I don't get a lot of Netflix time. The device opportunities are limited with everybody being home, which is fine. So I'm always grateful when I hear some stuff. I'm like, oh yes. And I make a note. I'm like, yes, I could, when I have access to the television and there are no little ears, and yes, I'm very excited. So I always turn to you for that, because you're going to tell me, if you want this, you go to this. You want this, you go to this. You want this, you go to this. I'm like, perfect. It's like my own personal library.
Exactly. Right in here. And I can tell you too, if you like this, or what are you doing right now in your life or your business? Oh, this is great for that.
Yeah. So, Samantha, I could talk all day about all the fun things that I know about you and why I love you. And you had sent me a fabulous bio, which I don't have, which was the whole go with the flow thing. So if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself officially, because you do so many things, and you are, you walk us through who you are.
Yeah, it is definitely an interesting world, I always say. And especially when you're kind of living it, and I love the whole idea of living it moment to moment, because that's a lot of the time, and we'll get into this, how I have to live just based on what's going on around me. But to your listeners, I want to say hello and thank you for having me. My name is Samantha King. I'm a former teacher with 8+ years of experience creating engaging learning opportunities for my students. And after years in both the corporate and small business worlds, Dion, as you know, I am still teaching. But now I am using my skill set to teach busy female entrepreneurs, the Fempire Builders community, that's the name of my company, like me, the steps to create successful online arms in their businesses by guiding them in creating an online course for their ideal client through our Course Makers program and mentorship. And you know me, of course, the online course is meant to fit into their business model like a glove. It's more than, when you're working with me, it's more than a course. We are creating a business model that's going to work.
Yes. And I have had the pleasure of working with you in different ways through different sort of, I won't say versions, but the evolution of this, of your business. And I've loved every minute of it. I'm again, that's why I love being around you, because you add to my world in fun, miraculous, and fabulous ways.
Thank you.
So Samantha, tell me, because I know a bit about your journey. We've talked about, life before business. We've talked about life before kids. And I know how the stories of our lives really do shape how we then process challenge, uncertainty, change. And so I'm very interested in hearing about your journey and the challenges that you faced and what you moved through to get to this space of Vampire Builders community, course maker magic, all things Samantha King.
I think it's a really interesting, because there are still, and this is the one thing I love about the way you guide and work with your clients when we did the Spark sessions, and just in general as part of the 100 Women on Fire movement, this idea that life is, it really is like a cycle, you know what I mean? It's almost like a tornado, and everything builds on top of each other. And that's why we end up back at crap over and over again. And I think it's so funny because, there are things that I will be dealing with for a long time. But I think one of the things that is really interesting as I've grown, that I've noticed, is that, I never was that kid. And I don't know if I've ever found anybody that was that kid who was like, this is what I want to do when I grow up. Right? Max right now knows, he's like, I'm going to be a captain of a ship. My kids, as you know, are autistic, and his thing right now is the Titanic. So he's going to be a captain of a ship, and he knows, like in his bones, I have never had that. And I think part of that was the childhood that I came from, where there was a lot of mental and verbal and emotional abuse, and a lot of feelings of, unloved and not worthy and that kind of stuff, and things that, I still have come up and work through on a regular basis. And I think because I didn't spend a lot of time dreaming, because I was just trying to survive my present. And as I think I've probably told you this, but people who follow me know, like I'm looking, Penny pulled my diplomas out of the basement the other day, and was asking about them. And I said to her, well, that's my Bachelor of Arts. And it is in ancient Greece and ancient Roman history. And she kind of looked at me and she was like, okay. And that means something to her, because her name is Penelope, and she was named after Penelope from the Odyssey. And we've talked about that. But like, I paid money to learn a dead language. I learned Latin for like 3 years. And why did that happen? Because I never really thought about like what I was going to do. And I even got into teaching because somebody said to me, you'd be good at this. I have a Bachelor of Education. And again, why? Because someone told me I'd be good at that, and it seemed all right. That seemed like the thing to do at the time. I liked kids. And I actually ended up leaving teaching because, for a couple of reasons. I had postpartum anxiety. So having to try to get into a classroom to supply teach and all that kind of stuff, like my anxiety was just off the chart with the unknown. But I was also finding that ultimately, like, even if I had had stayed with it until I moved past that postpartum anxiety, I didn't enjoy the politics. I constantly felt like I love the kids, I love the teaching and the designing, but I constantly felt that the other things that were going on around me was me trying to force myself that whole like square peg into a circular hole thing.
Right.
And, it was, and then, I did other things after that. And, I've sold textbooks to schools. I've been in sales and marketing. I've done telesales. I've worked in this corporate and small business worlds, financial services, and license for that because I was doing marketing and customer service, and I think it's because it wasn't until I hit, and I want to say rock bottom again, because there's rock bottom in life many times. Heck, I was hitting rock bottom as a child and not knowing it. But hit rock bottom again and really decided that if I was going to do something with my life, it needed to be something I was excited about.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard for me coming to that realization because my husband decided what he wanted to do. My husband and I have been together since we were 18. And he decided at 19 what he was going to do. And as I was going through all these different careers and like, what is Samantha going to do? Because I'm still finding Samantha. But at that point, I certainly had no idea who she was. He's been in his career for almost 20 years. Right. And so that's kind of, I had this person and I'm grateful to it because, I couldn't have done all the different careers and stuff without that support and that stability, but also great, it's also, you're looking at it and going like, what is wrong with me? Right. And
Yeah.
as I've talked to other women in business, as I've been building the Vampire Builders community, I realized that like, I'm not the only one who basically has this story where, because I thought it was me. I was like, you know what, because it was my fault. There was something wrong with me that I didn't know inherently what I was going to do when I was a child. And it doesn't, like TV doesn't help, or like Mark Zuckerberg creating Facebook in his dorm room. Like we assumed that like, well, he was good at computers and he knew he wanted to be in computers, but I truly believe he stumbled on it. Those hoodies don't, like this does not strike me as a man who was like at 4 was like, this is what I'm going to do. But, when we look at it and we go, this is what these people have always known what they wanted to do, or they've known where they've wanted to go in life. And I thought, there's something wrong with me because I don't know that. And I think over the years, and you can tell me too, with your organization and your community, that what I'm learning is that they're really the rarity, and they're the people that those are the stories we tell for some reason, rather than telling the people the Betty Whites who got famous at 50. Right. Or started acting at 50. Like, and I think that like, that's one of the things that, didn't cause me to create Vampire Builders, but as I was creating the business, and there's lots of different reasons. That's one of the biggest things that I've taken away and I've shared with women is that like, if you're not sure, like you're not alone. Like I get it.
Yeah. 100%. And it's interesting. I jokingly, more than once said I was going to rename my business to Honey, You're Not Alone, because, it's a common theme that comes up for a variety of reasons. And I had a very similar experience, moving through childhood. I wouldn't say so much survival. It was survival mode, but it was, I look at my past as sort of like everyday trauma, nothing massive, nothing major, just this constant, like we're just dealing with now, constantly just dealing with now. Right. And I look at my husband and I was like, although his career path, he still hadn't figured out, but he had passions. He had music. And he knew it was like since the day he picked up a guitar when he was extremely young and then sat in his room for hours teaching himself how to play, like that's like driven in a way I couldn't understand. Exactly. And I used to look at him and go, like, I don't get it. I don't know what I like. I don't know what I want to do because I've been so busy doing what I'm supposed to do. In very similar ways, people are like, oh, well, you're good at that, so go do this. oh,
Mhm.
you know what? You got these grades. This is where you go. You have this personality. This is what you do. You're
Yeah.
really good with these people. So this is what you should be doing. I went down a variety of roads. I, like you know, went to school, and I have a great degree, loved every minute of it. Don't
Mhm.
use, that's not true. I use lots of it now, but for a long period of time, I didn't use any of it. And then I went into something else, quit that, went into something else, finished that, but never used it. Like it just kept going.
Mhm.
I even got a master's degree because I thought I was supposed to. And I'm like, somebody said, well, is it going to benefit you at your job? No. You going to get more money? No. But why'd you do it? Well, like it was on the list. Like this
Mhm.
is where I was supposed to
And
go.
nobody asked me those questions.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so, the umbrella of the shoulds, and I talk about this a
Mhm.
lot, but it's very much part of that, and for women especially. So I think it's not for nothing that the examples we just used about people who knew what they wanted to do when they were 4 are not women.
Mhm.
And there's still this sort of overriding, well, I have to be present for people, and I have to take care of everybody. I have to make sure everybody's happy. I have to, just keep on keeping on this path that's been put in
Mhm.
front of me. And I'll veer off of it to find my way, but only in ways that are still acceptable in
Mhm.
that, right?
Mhm.
And like you, I started to, my passions, my purpose, my business started to unfold. It wasn't like, there's my coaching business, wrap it up in a bow, it's done day one.
Yeah, that never happens.
It's not what happened, right? It started with interest. It started with like things where I'm like, that's not okay. That's not
Mhm.
right. I want more of this. I think I want to see this in my life, right? And
Mhm.
having been on the other side of the Fempire Builders community for a number of years, I've seen your evolution, and I love when you literally like, I'm checking out so I can check myself, and I need to
Mhm.
like re-engage with what matters and put out the thing that I'm really passionate about, that really is what I want to be doing.
Mhm.
And as you go through those things, it's a huge inspiration to all of us as in the community to be able to, like, yeah, you can pause, you can
Mhm.
detour, right? And
Yeah.
I know right now people are using the word pivot, and I'm not against the word pivot. I really like
Mhm.
the word align. And I think
Mhm.
that as we come, we gain more clarity of who we are in the new world, and the new world
Mhm.
is getting it's new every day. But as
Mhm.
we evolve, so too does our alignment. And
Mhm.
I see that, I see you going through that, and I think it's absolutely phenomenal. And again, you have such a
Thank
vast
you.
community of women who are
Mhm.
looking to people to engage with and connect with, who have gone down this road of
Mhm.
of uncertainty, of holy crap, and I didn't know. And again, coming back to, you're absolutely right, we are not alone. The
Mhm.
women listening to this podcast, you are not alone.
Mhm.
This and your story is unique and yours, and it's through our shared experience that
Mhm.
we can all move forward.
Yeah, I think it's important, to never feel like it's not that bad, because that actually got me, it got me through. My world's not that bad. I'm not starving. There's a house over my head. There's, I'm not, a child bride in Africa. Like there's so many different things where literally that was my self-talk. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. Who am I to complain? Who am I? But we all have moments. And I think one of the things is that becomes toxic is when we try to say, well, my life was worse than your life. Because the reality is there are lives that your life is never going to be worse, but that doesn't take away from your experiences. And nobody's trying to take away from your experiences, because they are yours. They are part of your journey. They are part of you, and you went through them.
Mhm.
And it's that kind of self-comparison that we spend a lot of time at Vampire Builders really trying to bring women together in a way where that's not going to happen, where we're not comparing each other. And that's part of the reason why I share my story. Like, hot mess to awesomeness is a moment to moment thing for me. right? I homeschool 2 children. They're both autistic. I'm building a business. I'm not very good with boundaries. My kid Max does wake me up by jumping around me on my bed, and it is something I need to fix, because when I wake up that way, it ruins the rest of my day. But you know, it's a moment to moment thing. And then you get in those, and it's a choice, right? And I think that it's a choice to overcome it and keep going, but it's also a choice to give yourself the grace to go through what you need to go through in that moment to be able to overcome it.
Yes.
And don't compare, you know, another person's journey and say, well, that it was mine's not that bad. You know, like my son jumps around on my head every day, but thankfully he's healthy. Or when my kids were diagnosed with autism, you know, they're high functioning, you know, they're still healthy. They're not going to have I'm not really a planner, so I don't really think about that. But for some parents, you know, grieving the life that they thought their child was going to have is part of that process. Allow yourself to go through it, and don't diminish or think that you don't have the opportunity, or you shouldn't be feeling what you're feeling because, you know, my kids are high functioning.
Right.
So it's not the same as people who are lower functioning on the spectrum, or, you know, they're both healthy, or by the grace of God, I was able to have children, you know, healthy children.
Yeah.
My story and my feelings do not diminish those who are having other stories and other feelings. We need to listen. And so a lot of, as you know, is bringing women together in a way where they can listen to each other and work through, because we do sometimes start self-comparing. We do sometimes get uncomfortable, and we need to work through those issues, because ultimately they're ours.
Right.
They're not the person telling the story. But how do we do that? And then how do we empower women to find their voice, to see themselves as experts in their fields, and to kind of say, like, bye-bye to self-doubt, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not an expert.
Right.
And that's the beauty of our squad, where we're giving women the opportunity to lead master classes and be part of our Empire Builders library, where they are just as much the expert as me or anybody else who joins me. And and with course makers, it's the same thing. We're teaching women how to create online courses. We're teaching them how to fit it into their business, but we're also giving them the opportunity that we'll host it for them on our training center, because we believe in them. We believe in their experience and their expertise. And that's always been very important to me, that we're not just saying, oh, we empower women as lip service. Right. Here's what we do to do that, because every moment, you know, you make a choice, and it's the people that you have surrounding you and the people you feel safe enough to open up to that are going to help you get through it. Ultimately, the choice is yours and your story is yours, but feeling safe enough to say, like, I'm going through this, without worrying about things like mom shaming, which has happened to me, right? Or being guilted in because, you know, this story is worse than that story, or whatever. That should not be the narrative.
Right. And I think I truly believe it's our responsibility to go inward and take those small moment to moment actions. And that is what is going to change the narrative for the next generation, for the rest of our generation. And, you know, it's interesting. There's a lot of talk about comparisonitis. I too talk about it, about feeling like you see someone and go, oh, I'm not as good as them. And so I have to stall, not move forward, and get really stuck. And it can be very debilitating. And I don't think there's enough airplay for the other side of that coin, if you will, which is exactly what you're talking about, where we, you know, part of the women's narrative, this sort of the social norm of be small, play small, don't be loud, don't step out of line, make sure that you don't make the person in front of you feel uncomfortable. And so we get to the, oh, well, you know, I'm fine, everything over here is good, and I don't want to like belittle someone or in any way you know, make myself sound better than them, because you know, I'm just going to be quiet and be small over here. And, you know, and I can appreciate that without a habit or even practice at how to stand up and own your awesomeness, it can be really scary. because we don't know what we don't know. And we don't know that when, which communities potentially we can stand up, and maybe we haven't felt safe in our own environments to be able to be like, no, I am awesome. And the things that I do are really great. Or, you know what, my stuff is really hard and challenging, and I want to talk about it, and it's impacted me in this way. Like it's all of those pieces about being able to own our voice for the stuff that we're going through, and recognize that it matters, and the stuff that makes us great, and recognize that matters as well. And that
it's okay for you to be great and for me to be great. And
yes.
It's okay for you to have gone through something, and it's okay for me to have gone through something.
Yes.
And I think one of the things that has been really powerful for me, and especially in the last couple of days, is really, practicing my listening skills. And really, listening to what's going on around you. Listen to the people who are talking to you. Listen to what's being said, because you're going to find a couple of different things in everything that they're saying, but really listening, because a lot of the time our inner monologue, which is telling us, be small, be this, be that. And you may have more than one story like that playing in your head based on your who you are, and how you identify, or what you look like, or whatever. And you may be battling more than one of those stories in there, but really listen to what's going on, because a lot of the time it's not about you. What they're saying is about them. And by listening, and simply listening, and then making a conscious effort to say, okay, well, here's how I can support you. Here's how and the reason I say that, again, not because their story is, and I'm using air quotes, worse than your story, or is more victim like, and I hate that idea of victimhood, but that's not what I mean. I mean, when you listen and you support them, you're creating another opportunity to create a community where we can support each other without comparing, without attacking, without, and that's how we're going to get to that point, is by leading by example. So yes, sometimes, I feel like I have a different story than other people, and I'm running through that. I should be small. I should be quiet. I need to listen. And what I'm saying is sometimes, yeah, that is what I need to do. And I need to be quiet, and I need to listen. And from that, rather than resenting, I make a choice to be supportive, because if we can be supportive of each other, we can actually, now this person might be supportive to the next person. And how do we create a community that, allows people to share and to be heard and take action afterwards?
Absolutely.
Right? How can I show up and support you with action? And you may not even know what you need right now. And you may be tired of trying to tell people, here's how you can support me. Which is why Google is a beautiful thing. And so sometimes for me, supporting means listening and then Googling.
Right.
And trying to learn more. And Googling to the places that make me feel uncomfortable, because, a lot of the time you're uncomfortable because you're getting outside of your comfort zone. Right? And not in a bad way, obviously. I'm talking about getting uncomfortable in a good way.
Right. So yeah.
So that I can grow.
I've always said that that feeling when you're in a new situation and taking in information, that discomfort is actually the feeling of brain cells growing. So, right. So when you're there, to be able to reframe to this, I don't like this, to, oh, I'm growing my brain, which means that, there's expansion and evolution and all those things. That's my little, being in the moment there, and how to.
That's the key though.
Yeah.
Why do I feel uncomfortable? What am I learning? For me, it's usually, what am I learning that I need to learn? Or
right.
how am I being checked right now by somebody else that I need to reflect upon and learn more about? Because sometimes it's about, something, maybe you sent something that came across as salesy to in a personal message on social media. sometimes you dressed a certain way and people felt uncomfortable by it, right?
Right.
Or sometimes it's just simply, the people around you felt like you overshared. Or for me, I've had to parent differently. I don't get to be the parent that I dreamed of being. Not that, as you know, I really dreamed about anything, but the parent that, I would like to have been. I don't necessarily get to be that with my kids because they're autistic. Their brains are different than mine. They function differently. And so now I need to be the parent that my kids need me to be.
Right. And
that has dirty looks that come with it. That has snide comments. It has mom shaming that comes with it. And so a lot of the time, it's that reflection to say, why am I uncomfortable? And do I need to check myself? Or is this an unhealthy situation where, and as you know, with the mom shaming, I just moved away.
Right. I think they're getting into the practice of asking that question,
Mm-hmm.
right? And going, okay, so instead of running from all discomfort, which many of us are in the habit of doing, ooh, don't like this, shift, move, and then stop, stall, push away.
We're wired to.
Exactly.
We're wired to fly away.
That's right. And so, to be able to go, okay, what is happening here? Is there something that I am learning, information that I'm taking in? And even if it's something like, I don't want to be here, you're still learning that. And it's bringing that to as it goes, okay, I can make this situation feels like this, looks like this, is this, and now I know I'm better equipped for the next time, which is all that learning is, right?
Exactly.
And so one of my knee-jerk go-tos is 100%, going to the books, like, and looking, reading, diving in, like absorbing as much information as I can, integrating it, trying to shift my model of the world so that I can grow. And I know that you are in the same boat. I'm also interested in anything else that you have been doing or have done in the past, or people you turn to that support you through the discomfort of learning, of facing those challenges. What are some of your sort of go-to behaviors, ideas, people that help to get you through?
So I'm a big watcher. Watcher/listener. Samantha, the name Samantha actually means the listener. So I listen a lot, and I watch on social media, which allows me to listen. And it's a really interesting thing when you can do that. I watch, I listen. I'll go to blogs if I feel that they're being shared by somebody reputable, or somebody or is a reputable source. We see all that stuff on social media. But what I'm actually doing is watching my community and taking their lead, or reading their articles, and seeing kind of what is what. For example, like I have a Brene Brown book I've never read. I've started to read it a bunch of times, but what did I do? I think you really, as listeners, need to honor your medium. I watched her thing on Netflix, and I really do, and you know this about me, I think in like TV lines. But I also turn to those shows because, one, there's that comfort that comes with them, right? As you know, there's shows I've watched multiple times. There's a comfort in them, but there's also the opportunity for growth in them. We watch Friends, and there are so many shows, and that's just an iconic show. Mm-hmm. There are so many episodes and storylines that we now are like, wow, that's not appropriate.
Right.
And you and I were talking about 30 Rock and different parallels and things that I watched. And again, it's that awareness. What is it? Because people watch TV, and it's great for them to be escapes, of course. Like, hello, I keep them on in the background while I'm working. But it's about going from the mediums that you enjoy into other things. So, yesterday I watched 30 Rock, sure, but I was also listening to an IGTV episode of two women discussing something. And, it's the same thing if you like podcasts and you want to do that, or having conversations with your community members. I mean, for me, that's kind of my approach. And right now there's no one person that I go to for anything. It's more about, what does that mean? And then what I tend to do is I invest in my community to say, okay, now teach me. teach me, because I think that it's fantastic to listen to just in the business world. Like I love my Chris Ducker. I love Chris Ducker. Amy Porterfield is pretty interesting too, in terms of the business world and what's going on. But that doesn't mean that I invest in them. I invest in the people around me, because it's not that, and lots of people invest in them, and it's not that they're not fantastic. They are. And I tell people, like, if you're still learning and you're not ready to invest, here are 5 or 6 resources, right? And it's the same thing. Like I really have recommended, even Shonda Rhimes' book, The Year of Yes, and watching her TED Talk, checking out Brene Brown's Netflix special. You know, you can find her TED Talk as well. Tony Robbins has a great Netflix special about I'm Not Your Guru. There's so many different like opportunities, no matter what you're trying to get into. But what I really am encouraging people to do is actually turn to the people in your community and invest in them, because those are the people who know you, who, one, you're going to be, I love shopping local. I love supporting, especially, you know me, Shop Squad First, for our squad. But those are the people who you can actually interact with face to face. Those are the people who you can link arms with and make change with. Yeah. And so how do I invest in them and their community and learn from them? Because I want to be able to work with people that I can link arms with and say, okay, here's the change, or here's the conversation or the challenge that I'm having. And it's personal, it's professional, heck, it's just listening to their podcasts, right? How can we show up and connect with them? Because those are the people that I can then turn to and say, hey, you know, I was listening to your podcast, or I read your social media post, or I watched your IGTV thing, and I really enjoyed this. And it really got me thinking about this. And is there something that you do that could help me with this? Right? And it can be something as simple as, can you help me with my LinkedIn profile? Or it can be, I really need help figuring out why I can't set boundaries so my kids don't wake me up by jumping on my head every morning, right? And so how do we do that? So I think that, you know, asking what resources I turn to is a loaded question. And the short answer really is find the mediums that work for you. And, you know, be a watcher / listener, and reinvest in your community. Yeah. Turn to them, because those are the people that you are going to be able to link arms with and actually make change. You know, I can follow and invest in Brene Brown or Marie Forleo or all of these people that are coming to my head right now. But when it comes to making change, they're not the ones I'm going to be linking arms with. So I want to actually meet people that I can link arms with.
I love everything about that. And of course, being part of your community, I can attest that that's exactly what you do and how you show up every day, connecting, asking questions, and learning. I really admire, there's a part about you that you didn't acknowledge that I want to just sort of highlight for a second. It is that sort of this non-negotiable for you, that you have more to learn. So many people in our world, in leadership roles, or even out, you know, in our general families and environments, there's this sort of layer, this lens of I'm good. And learning can become a huge challenge because it's not part of their I am. And the one thing that I'm drawn to with you, because I too feel like I am here to reflect, ask questions, be curious about myself, be compassionate when I acknowledge that I fell on my face, and then go, where can I go? Like what's out there that I have yet to take in that can support me through this. And I really admire that about you, that it's a given that you're like, teach me. I'm walking in kind of like blank slate here on this thing, and I'm super excited about it. And I love your perspective. Again, going back to what we talked about when we first hopped on the call about, you know, the way that you see the world, the way that I see the world, completely different. But when we come together, it becomes this huge, massive, awesome thing. And I really appreciate that. And I think that for the people who may be interested in learning more about what you do, or just figuring out for themselves how they're to best manage the the consistent state of uncertainty that we wake up to every day, is to, I love the be a watcher, be a listener, and be willing to adopt this mindset of, I have more to learn. And I think it was Bill Nye that said, everybody you meet knows something you don't. And
Exactly.
I am super, I think that stands right out in front for me. So whenever I connect with somebody, it's like, yes, I would love to share this about what's going on in my world, but I'm very excited to hear about what's going on in their world, and to be able to pull that in, because I know it makes me a better person, and it gives me more opportunity to engage and give back. So just like you said, you know, linking arms with the people in your community is about learning from them, and then learning how you can best support them with what you have. And then together we all rise up.
Exactly.
Frickin'
Exactly. And I think too, the other piece of that, you know, learning, you know, I do subscribe to, I am always learning, because I do not know everything. And I never will know everything. But the other thing is, don't be afraid. The other side of that is, don't be afraid to say that. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, because you are going to make mistakes. You are going to make mistakes, and people will come at you for it. But when you have been learning and working and linking arms, you will have people to turn to. You will have people who say, yes, we know you made a mistake, but this does not define you. Right? Because you are trying, and you are a human, you are a work in progress. And so how do we learn from that mistake, and how do we do better next time? Because ultimately that is what is being asked of us as a global community. Right? How do we do better next time? Don't just say, I made a mistake, or don't just jump onto something to be a part of some big community or social media post. I made a mistake. Here's what I learned, and here's how I'm doing better. Here's how I'm going to do better next time. And you know what? Like I use that model with my kids. I use it with our community. I use it with clients. I use it with people on social media, where I have just shown up and been, you know what? Like, oh, I didn't understand what was going on. You're right. I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And here's what I've learned.
It is the most empowering mindset. And
Yeah.
it actually, it defines you as a leader when you are willing to lead with vulnerability, you know, and to lean a little on Brene and dare to lead, and that great work that you have not read. I need
the Netflix special.
Yeah, it's extremely, extremely important. So, you know, thank you, Samantha. I am always grateful to connect with you and to be able to chat. I look forward to being able to see you face to face and have one of those really great brain coupling moments, a little bit deeper than it was today. And I look forward to all the greatness that is coming from the Vampire Builders community. And so look for that, and the Course Maker program, and all of the wonderful, wonderful things that you're putting out into the world. Thank you. Thank you for being.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show. Join Dion again next week to learn more about what you can do to go from hot mess to awesomeness.